We are at Brachot, 9th chapter, 2nd Mishnah. משנתנו ממשיכה בברכות הראייה. Our Mishnah is going to continue to talk about the blessings when you see specific things. וכן מוסיפה ללמד בברכות אחרות. Also it's going to teach us about different other blessings. על הזיקין, on the זיקין. What is זיקין? זיקין is a comet. הרואה כוכב שביט. Somebody who sees a comet. ועל הזוועות, and on the זוועות. What is זוועות? זוועות is earthquake. ועל הברקים, and on lightning. ועל הרעמים, if one hears thunder. ועל הרוחות, or great wings, hurricanes, and so on. על הרוחות שבאים בסערה, this is talking about storms, וזה אף אומר. So in all these kind of things that we mentioned before, the blessing is, ברוך שכוחו וגבורתו מלא עולם. Blessed be God, that his might and power fills the world. And he says this blessing including Shem u'Malchut. In other words, he says God's name, Baruch Ata Hashem, Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it explains, שאפשר לברך על כל אחת מתופעות הטבע הללו, that one is able to make a blessing in all of the things we mentioned above, גם ברוך עושה מעשה בראשית. You can also make the blessing, blessed God who makes creation. ונוהגים לברך על הרעמים. And the custom is that when it comes to thunder, there's a specific blessings. שכוחו וגבורתו מלא עולם. That his power and might fills the world. ועל הברקים, and on the lightning, one makes a different blessing, עושה מעשה בראשית. The one who creates the world. Who creates the first thing, the creation. Next thing. על ההרים, if one sees big great mountains, ועל הגבעות, or hills, ועל הימים, or seas, oceans, ועל הנהרות, or big rivers, ועל המדברות, on deserts, הרואה אחד ממראה הטבע הללו, one who sees one of those sights that can be found in nature that we mentioned before. The Rambam prefaces it, says it, אחת ל-30 יום, if you see it first time in 30 days, what do you say in that? אומר, ברוך עושה מעשה בראשית. Blessed is God, that the one who makes creation, the one who made the creation. ודווקא ברכה זו, and he specifically says this blessing, שאינו יכול לברך על הדברים האלו, because do not make on all those things that we mentioned now, like mountains and river and so on, שכוחו וגבורתו מלא עולם, that his power and might fills the world. Why? לפי שאינם נראים ברוב העולם, because those we specified to things that it can be seen in the majority of earth. אלא כל אחד ואחד מהם הוא רק במקומו. But these things are in a specific place. Rabbi Yehuda says, הרואה את הים הגדול. What happens if one sees the big sea? Now, which big sea are we talking about? יש מפרשים שכוונת משנתנו, there are those who say that when the Mishnah says the big seas, it means ים התיכון. It means the Mediterranean. שהוא הגבול המערבי של ארצנו. It is the western boundary of our country. ומפני חשיבותה של ארץ ישראל נקרא ים הגדול. And because of the importance of the Jewish land, it is called the big sea, even though it's not as big as an ocean. ויש סוברים, but there are those who hold, שאין כוונת רבי יהודה אלא לים האוקיינוס. That when Rabbi Yehuda meant, he didn't mean the Mediterranean, he meant the ocean. And what do we say when he sees the ocean, according to Rabbi Yehuda, or the Mediterranean? ברוך שעשה את הים הגדול. Blessed is the one who created the big sea. שמפני חשיבותו קבעו לו ברכה לעצמו. Because of its importance, they establish a specific blessing for the ocean. בזמן שרואות או לפרקים, again, When do you do it? In the time that you see it intermittently. What does it mean? Hainu pam le-30 yom, once in 30 days. Next thing, al hagshamim, when it rains, ועל הבשורות הטובות, or when there's good tidings, אומר ברוך הטוב והמיטיב. He says, blessed be God who does good, who is good and does good. ירדו גשמי ברכה, if rains of blessing came down, מברך ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם הטוב והמיטיב. He says, blessed are you God, King of the universe, that you're good and you do good. בגמרא מבואר, גמרא explains, שאין אדם מברך הטוב והמיטיב. It says the only time where a person makes the blessing that God is good and he does good for his creatures, אלא כשיש לו שדה בשותפות עם אחרים. He only does this kind of blessing when he has a partner in his field with other people. שכל טובה שהגיע לו לאדם, because every good that one receives, ויש אחר שותף עמו בטובה זו, and he's not by himself, there's another person who joins with him in this good, מברך עליה הטוב ומיטיב. Then he makes the blessing that God is good and he does good. אבל אם יש לו שדה לעצמו, but if he owns the field only by himself, without, ללא כל שותף, without any partners, מברך שהחיינו על הגשמים. Then he makes a different blessing, not הטוב ומיטיב, he says the blessing of שהחיינו, that he enlivened us. ויש סוברים שאפילו כשאין לו שותף בשדה, there are those who says, disagree, that says that even when you don't have a partner, you still say הטוב ומיטיב. You still say that God is good and he does good for others. How come? שכל מי שיש לו קרקע, because it's not just his land. Anybody who, around the world who has land, הרי הוא שיתף עמו. He becomes like a partner with him. With what? בטובת הגשמים, because he also enjoys the rain. The rain don't only fall on your field, they fall on many fields. אבל אם אין לו שדה כלל, what happens if it rains and you don't own any field? Then what do you say? Then you say, מודים אנחנו לך. He says, we are thankful to you. השם אלוקינו, God our God, על כל טיפה וטיפה שהורדת לנו, on each and every drop that you brought down to us. ואילו פינו מלא שירה קיים, and then you continue with the special prayer that even if our mouth was full of song, just like the ocean, וכולו, etc., until the end of that Tehillim, until the end of that verses, הן הם יודו וישבחו, that they all are going to thank and to praise, ויברכו את שמך מלכנו, and bless your holy name. וחותם, and then you end that blessing with, ברוך אתה השם, blessed are you God, כל רוב ההודאות והתשבחות. You are the master of all the thanks and all the praises. יש אומרים, there are those who say, שאין מברכים ברכת הגשמים, that you don't make the blessing for the rain, אלא אם כן היו בצער. You don't do it in a regular time every time it rains, only if it was a time of famine, a time that it didn't rain for a long time, מחמת עצירת הגשמים, because it didn't rain for a long time. ואחר כך ירדו גשמים, and only then they came down the water. Then you make that blessing. But not every time it rains. ברם, but, בארץ ישראל, if you notice that in the land of Israel, שמצוי יובש גדול, that usually there is not enough rain, וכשמגיע זמן הגשמים, and when the time for the rain appears, of the time of the year, והגשם יורד בזמנו, and the rain comes down in the right time, כל אחד שמח בו. We are all happy in it. יש מצדדים לומר, there are those who says, שמברכים ברכת הגשמים, that we do say the blessing for the rain, אף אם לא הייתה עצירת גשמים קודם לכן, even if it was not a time of famine beforehand. It was a regular year. Up to here. וכן על בשורות טובות, the same thing it comes when it happens to be with good tidings, שהן טובות לו ולאחרים, if the good tidings is not just for him by himself, it's him and other people, מברך הטוב ומיטיב. He makes the blessing that God is good and he does good to his creatures. בירושלמי, וכן במדרש רבה, in the Yerushalmi and also in the Midrash, מובא ששמח התנא, over there it says that when the Mishnah was, the person who wrote the Mishnah wrote, בשורות טובות לגשמים, when it comes to rain, he said the בשורות טובות, good news, and he used the word בשורה. על שם הכתוב, why did he use the word בשורה, good tidings, good news? על שם הכתוב, because it is written, מים קרים על נפש עייפה. There's a verse in Mishnah that says, cold water on a tired soul, שמועה טובה מארץ מרחק. Good tiding is going to come from a far land. ועל שמועות רעות, and on bad tidings, אומר, what does one say? ברוך דיין האמת. Blessed is the one who judges truthfully. יש מהירים, there are those who actually point out, שהתנא נקט, that it uses two words for news. It uses בשורות טובות, good news. It uses the word בשורה, ושמועות רעות. And again, bad news, he uses a different word, שמועה, not בשורה. Why? מפני שרעות אין מספרים לאדם, עד שישמעו לו. Because when it comes to bad tidings, you don't want to go around and tell people all the bad news. You just say it and the guy hears it just like by the way. It's not something that you run around and you are happily to tell somebody about his bad tidings. ולכן אומר שמועות רעות, that he hears bad tidings. In other words, you don't tell it to him directly, you tell him by the way. ואילו טובות, but when it comes to good news, then the opposite, you run and you're supposed to tell him. ואילו טובות מצווה לבשר לאדם. But good news, it's a commandment to make somebody happy and to tell it to him immediately. לכן אומר בשורות טובות. This is why there's a change in the wording. When it comes to good tidings, it says בשורה, that it's you run and tell him. When it comes to bad tidings, uses the word שמועה, that he hears it by the way. You don't run and tell him, it happens to be that he hears about it.